Chapter 10. Heading into Hiding. Defeat on the battlefield did nothing to slow the Nazis' drive toward the final solution. Across the Reich, the SS continued its ruthless efforts to make Europe Judenrein. July 12, 1942, 5,000 Jews are taken from a ghetto in the Ukrainian section of the Soviet Union. A few manage to escape into the forest. The rest are murdered by the SS. July 13, 1942. The SS shoots 1,500 Jews at Józefów, a village in Poland. In another part of Poland, the Lodz district, 3,000 Jews are deported to the Majdanek extermination camp. July 14, 1942. At Smolensk, in the Ukrainian Soviet Union, several thousand Jewish adults and children are taken to a nearby forest and gassed in vans. Also on this day, a train loaded with 988 Jews leaves Austria for Theresienstadt, a concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. From that same camp, another transport of 1,000 Jews is shipped east toward the Soviet Union. Just before they reach their destination, they are put off the train, taken on trucks to a forest, shot by SS, and their bodies dumped in a common grave. Every day, similar numbers of people were killed. On some days, more. Across Nazi-occupied Europe, Jews, Gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other undesirables were rounded up by the hundreds and thousands and hauled away to be imprisoned or killed. That day was drawing closer for Helen and Siegfried. Early in July 1942, Siegfried and I received an order, along with the hundreds of other foreign Jews living in Holland. We were to appear at the train station in Amsterdam on July 15th at 1:30 a.m. for resettlement to the east. Each of us was allowed to bring one suitcase. We had to surrender our house keys, which frightened us very much. Exchanging our skimpy information with friends, Siegfried and I decided that we needed more time. We wanted to explore any possibilities for escaping this frightening resettlement. To gain time, we found a doctor who was willing to remove Siegfried's perfectly healthy appendix. I took the doctor's certificate to the Nazi authorities. This gained us a 2-week extension while he recovered. I spent those 2 weeks learning what I could to try and save us. The Nazis insisted that every occupied city with more than 10,000 people have a Judenrat, a Jewish council. The purpose of the Judenrat, they claimed, was to advise Jews on how to obey the new laws. But in truth, the councils were created to put Jews in charge of carrying out Nazi orders. Each Judenrat had to keep lists of the people in its area, stating the age and occupation of every Jew. The elderly and those who did not have skills important to the Reich were the first ones selected for resettlement. It was the painful task of the Judenrat to notify victims when they were selected. Council members often knew in advance when their families or friends might be picked. Naturally, they did everything possible to keep their names off the lists. Council members were envied for their inside information, and they were despised when they used their positions to help themselves, their families, or friends. By putting Jews in charge of their own people, the Nazis accomplished just what they wanted. Jews began to mistrust and hate one another. While Siegfried was in the hospital, I learned that any job connected with the Jewish Council could keep a person and his family from being deported temporarily. I applied as a cook for a Jewish old people's home, where my job was to prepare 3 meals a day for 40 people. After 2 or 3 months of work, I arrived one morning at 7 a.m. to find the doors open and the building ransacked. All the old people were gone. What frightened me tremendously was the fact that most of these people were bedridden and could have been moved only on stretchers. Suddenly, it became clear to me that the Jewish Council was lying when it told us that all deportees were sent east to do labor. The people in this home couldn't do labor. They could barely walk. I rushed out of the house and ran all the way home, frightfully aware now of the horror that awaited us. The agency in charge of rounding up the Jews and shipping them east was the Gestapo, the Nazis' secret state police. Its leader was Heinrich Müller, known to the Nazis as Gestapo Müller. The Gestapo were best known and most feared branch of the SS, which was headed by the black-souled Heinrich Himmler. It was Himmler who had ordered the expansion of the Auschwitz death camp. As the head of the SS, he was also Adolf Eichmann's superior and oversaw Eichmann's management of the death trains that carried the victims east. Using his position, Himmler made certain that the death trains had top priority on the rail lines. They were scheduled first, before trains carrying food, freight, or war material. The important thing to me, Himmler admitted, is that as many Jews as humanly possible be removed to the east. To Jews and other enemies of the state, Himmler and Müller and their black-booted Gestapo police stood for one thing: terror and the threat of death. Every evening from dusk to midnight, we heard the tramp of hobnailed boots from the street below. Sometimes they would stop, seeming to enter houses. We guessed that they emerged with new victims, but we were much too terrified to look out the window as the dreaded footsteps neared our house, for we were certain it was now our turn. When they passed without entering, we never knew why. Eventually, we came to wish that they would enter, just to end the tension that was draining us so completely. As the Gestapo raided more and more neighborhoods, Jews began to disappear by the hundreds and thousands. Some vanished according to the Nazis' night and fog decree, but others left of their own will, by their own plan, to go underground, into hiding. Thanks to the efforts of a very few Gentiles, non-Jews, the lives of thousands of Jews were saved. These people, called the righteous Gentiles, were often common working folks, many of them lower and middle class. They hated Hitler's regime and were determined to defy it. Through their Jewish friend Euro in Amsterdam, Helen and Siegfried were introduced to a Gentile couple. These people had helped Euro and his wife Gerda find a hiding place for their daughter, who was about Doris's age. Once little Vera was safe, Euro and his mother and wife decided to go into hiding themselves. Their plan sounded wise to Helen and Siegfried. Euro offered to arrange a meeting with the people who were helping him, and we eagerly accepted. We were introduced to Jo Wies, a tall, blond carpenter. He and his wife and their friends had formed a small group whose goal was to defy the German forces in Holland by helping the Jews. By doing this, of course, they risked great danger to themselves and their families. Jo knew of a family willing to keep Doris. It would take longer, he said, to find a place for us. Naturally, we were encouraged by this possible way out of desperate situation. Now we could take action to save ourselves instead of waiting hopelessly to be found. So grateful were the Jews for the help given to them by the righteous Gentiles that after the war, in the Israeli city of Jerusalem, they erected a memorial called Yad Vashem, Avenue of the Righteous. Along this avenue, a tree was planted for every righteous Gentile known to have helped Jews during the war. The honored people were brought to Israel by the government for a special ceremony where they received an award and helped to plant their trees. 50 years after the war, trees are still being planted at Yad Vashem, as more righteous Gentiles are identified. Since the memorial was begun in 1962, more Gentiles have been honored from Holland than from any other country. Among them were Jo Wies, Ab Rusnik, and several other people who helped Helen and Siegfried. Finding places for Jews to hide was only one of the ways the righteous Gentiles helped. They had contacts with the underground, an information network that operated in secret against the Nazis. Holland's underground network was one of the strongest and best organized in Europe. Both Jews and Gentiles joined. Through their underground contacts, righteous Gentiles were able to secure food tickets for the Jews they were hiding. Because of severe shortages during the war, food was rationed. The government issued tickets that each person needed to purchase food. Naturally, no tickets were issued to Jews. So, To acquire them underground, workers broke into the distribution centers each month and stole a supply. These underground groups often printed newspapers that told the truth about the war rather than the propaganda reported by German papers. In great danger of their lives, underground workers distributed these newspapers at night on their bicycles. For a time, Helen and Siegfried helped by translating articles from Dutch to German, and vice versa. So risky was it to be part of the underground that friends and family members kept their involvement a secret from each other. The less one knew about fellow underground workers, the better. That way, if members were caught, they could not be pressured by the Nazis to give up valuable information. 2 nights after we met Joe, he came to carry Doris's clothing, her bed, and many of her toys to what would soon be her new home. When she arrived, even her dollhouse would be waiting for her. Joe told us only that her new parents were a childless couple who would be happy to have her live with them. We did not know their names, nor the name of the town where she would be. It was too dangerous for us to have this information. Doris was an outgoing child who loved to visit neighbors. So when we told her about these new friends who always wanted a child, she began looking forward to the trip. The new parents came to get her the following Sunday. After a short visit, the 5 of us walked to the nearest streetcar stop. There, we said goodbye, as casually as possible, and gave these strangers our child. It was October 22nd, 1942, 6 days before Doris's 5th birthday, the last time her father ever saw her.